Hello, welcome to the new video The Love of Milim and Rimuru by BenGrem1234. Chapter 42. A Bloody Massacre Part 1 Warning. Just wanted to give you guys a warning. Starting from this chapter to the entire Eastern Empire's arc, there will be a lot of killing and carnage. It will be described how a person is brutally killed and it won't be pretty. If you can't handle it, I advise you to not read it. If you feel you can handle it, knock yourself out with reading it. I advise again to read with caution. The Eastern Empire were going at full force from the start because it was deemed necessary to do so due to Demon Lord Milim Nava and Storm Dragon Veldora assisting Demon Lord Rimuru. The strategy was to use all the cards the Empire had from the start to crush their enemies. All Soldier along with Emperor Rudra himself was in the battlefield. The Imperial Knights along with all the single digit were with Emperor Rudra. At the northern side near the nation of Ingrasha, Gladium led his camp, which consisted of about 700,000 soldier with different magical beast and airships. The armored corps, which was led by General Calgurio, was stationed at the forest which led to the nation of Dwargo. The corps consisted of 2,000 armored tanks, 5,000 flying airships and 1 million soldiers who were marching on foot. The rest of the corps were in the Jura forest heading for the nation of Tempest. In the air inside the Jura forest, we see a big airship which is big enough to contain about 30,000 troops. Inside the chambers of the airship on a king-size throne, we see Emperor Rudra seating down. By his side is the Marshal and behind them are Lieutenant Kondo and Damrata. The army of the Eastern Empire was overwhelming and they're boosted enough power to conquer any continent. It is with this confidence that they're attacked Demon Lord Rimuru despite all the rumors about him and his nation. To them, Demon Lord Rimuru was nothing more than a weakling who is being protected by the influence of the Storm Dragon and Demon Lord Milim Nava. Emperor Rudra looked at the Marshal whose identity Velgrand, one of the true dragons in the world. Do you think this much military force is too much for Demon Lord Rimuru? Demon Lord Rimuru is not the problem. The problem is my little brother and niece who are supporting him. Though, we already have a plan for my niece if she interferes, Velgrand said while leaning on Rudra. Rudra smiled. Then I will leave Veldora to you. I and the single digit will deal with Demon Lord Rimuru and his men if they interfere. That a good plan, Rudra. We will conquer everything for you in order for you to win your game with Guy Crimson. Rudra smiled and brought Velgrand closer to himself. I can't wait for this game to end. At Dwargo entrance, General Calgurio have never been this happy before in his life. He was inside the HQ tank which was at the front of the armored tanks. He was very excited because of his soon conquest of the Dwarven Kingdom. The King of Dwargo, King Gazel, was one whose name has reached even the Eastern Empire. He is a saint-level opponent whose strength is said to be on the level of Saint Hinata. It will be a great honor to take his head, and Calgurio was sure that his name would go down in history if he succeeded. The Dwarven Kingdom is said to be an impenetrable fortress that specializes in their defense, but that meant nothing to Calgurio. He has 1 million soldiers with him. On top of that, he has 2,000 armored tanks at the ready and about 5,000 flying airships with him. Breaking down the wall of Dwargo Kingdom was only a matter of time. Picture of the magic tanks, picture of the magic airships. General Calgurio looked at his lieutenant. Give word to the airships to rain down their anti-magic missile to destroy the magic barrier that surrounds the kingdom of Dwargo. After that is done, inform the magic tanks to destroy the walls of the kingdom so that we can begin this invasion. As you wish, sir. The lieutenant bowed and prepared to carry out the orders given to him. Please wait, sir. There is a person in front of the Dwarven Kingdom's gate, one of the network observers said. Who is it? Is it King Gazel? Calgurio shouted. No, sir. He is an Oni in red clothes. According to our intel, his name is Benimaru and he is the right-hand man of Demon Lord Rimuru. Another network observer said to him. Must be an envoy that was sent to negotiate with us by the Demon Lord. Let's hear what he has to say, Calgurio said. Benimaru leisurely walked to where the Eastern Empire's army were. He was commanded by Rimuru to go and annihilate all the soldiers that were stationed in Dwargo. Rimuru instructed him to offer them the choice to retreat. If they agreed, he was to return. But if they refused, he was to annihilate them to the last man and leave no survivors. Benimaru was confident that he can get the job done alone. After all, as he is now, he is strong enough to defeat an awakened demon lord in a fight, and this is him not having an ultimate skill. This fight should serve as a training for the real fight that is to come. Benimaru stood opposite from the enemy war tanks. My name is Benimaru and I am the right-hand man of Demon Lord Rimuru. I have been instructed to offer you two choices. Retreat with your armies or die. Those are your only two options. General Calgurio could not believe the arrogance of this Benimaru. He put the sound magic on loudspeaker before he began. Tell your demon lord to go to hell. Fire the tanks at this arrogant creature. The armored tanks began to fire their magic shells at Benimaru, but a stream of black flame erupted from the ground and blocked all the shells. I guess this is your answer. Then allow me to end all of you at once in the name of Demon Lord Rimuru, Benimaru said as he drew his sword, which he covered in black flame. And then, the massacre began. Benimaru, who is above and awakened demon lords in power, was no joke at all, and the Eastern Empire bore witness to his powers. Benimaru sent a single hell flare in the air and it exploded and took down about 1,000 airships. The Eastern armies were shocked by the attack that they began to fire all kinds of magic bullets and bombs at Benimaru, but it didn't reach him. Benimaru used his speed to appear in the middle of the army, which took them by surprise. There, Benimaru began to butcher the soldiers. With his speed, which was faster than light, and his sword, which causes black flames to erupt from a single scratch, the soldiers didn't stand a chance. In less than a minute, more than 500,000 soldiers have been slain by Benimaru. The magic tanks all pointed their shells at where Benimaru was still massacring the soldiers and began to fire at him, not minding that their comrades were still there. Benimaru, sensing them with magic sense, flew up in the air and saw the entire magic tanks from a bird's eye view. He raised his hand in the air and multiple hellflare appeared in the air around him, which he sent to the direction of the magic tanks. When the hellflare impacted on the tanks, it caused a massive explosion of black flames which sent out heat all over the battlefield. The explosion vaporized all the magic tanks in one fell swoop, and the heat was able to melt about 300 airships, which caused them to explode. Luckily, the HQ tank, which was as large as an airship, had retreated at the far back when the battle began, or it would have been destroyed as well. After the explosion died down, all the 2,000 armored tanks have been destroyed, along with about 400,000 soldiers and 300 airships. This is not counting the 500,000 soldiers that were slain at the beginning of the battle. It was complete chaos for the Eastern Empire's army. General Calgurio couldn't believe what he was seeing. In fact, he suspected that something was wrong with his eyes due to how ridiculous what he saw was. In an instant, more than half of his military might have been wiped out by a single individual. He couldn't believe it, but the evidence was right before him. He still have about 4,700 airships and about 100,000 soldiers, but it was only a matter of time before they are wiped out as well. He didn't know what to do. General Calgurio, I implore you to allow us to retreat. We can't beat that monster, his lieutenant told him. With the power of that monster, do you really believe that he would allow us to escape? We need to make our stand here, Calgurio said with a sad voice. I guess I will go, a soldier who entered the command room said. Calgurio looked at him with hope. Commander Minute, I'm glad you are here. With your powers, I'm sure you can beat that monster. Leave him to me, General. I will make him pay for what he has done, Minute said as he left the tank. Benimaru landed on the ground and looked at the level of destruction his attack caused. The entire forest was a wasteland and the ground was burnt. Not bad considering that I am holding back more than half of my powers. As Benimaru was watching the forest, he raised his sword and blocked a slash that was heading to his neck. He turned around and saw a soldier in a navy uniform glaring at him. And who might you be? Benimaru asked as he increased the heat of the flames that covered his sword, which caused the sword of his opponent to melt. Minute saw this and jumped back while discarding his sword. Once in a safe distance, Minute looked at Benimaru. My name is Minute and I am the one who will be taking your head. Is that so? Then show me what you've got then, Benimaru said to him in a taunting way. Minute brought out his second sword and rushed at Benimaru with. Minute was confident that he could beat Benimaru because of his unique skill air vacuum, which allows him to turn the surrounding air around himself into a shield that blocks all magical and physical attacks. With this unique skill and his strength, Minute has won so many battles with different opponents who were all boasting about their strength. It was obvious why he won, since he has a power that could block all physical and magical based attack of his opponents. This confidence is what made him challenge Benimaru. Unfortunately, Benimaru was not playing around this time. In an instant, Benimaru disappeared and appeared behind Minute with his flaming black sword. What followed after was the head of Minute falling on the ground along with his body being burnt to ash by black flames. It happened in an instant that Minute could not begin to comprehend how and why he died. Minute was fast and could be said to be comparable to the speed of sound, but Benimaru, whose speed has surpassed light by about 10x while holding back, is way beyond the speed a person of Minute level could follow. Not only that, it is true that Minute's unique skill can create air vacuum that can block all forms of attack, but it was a bad matchup with Benimaru. Benimaru's flame burns hotter than the sun itself, and not only that, It could burn through anything including abstract things like magic, spirit, concepts, air, and with the right measures, it could even burn through time. Benimaru's flames works with his will. As long as Benimaru believes that his flames can burn through something, then his flames will react and reach the degree that will allow it to burn through that thing. This is why Benimaru is one of the strongest subordinates of Rimuru. It is because, even though it is only an extra skill, his hell flare can burn through any unique skill it encounters. With this reasons, Minute defeat wasn't really that surprising. After all, Minute is slightly stronger than some demon lords while Benimaru is stronger than an awakened demon lord. The difference between the two were like night and day. Benimaru looked the still floating airships that was still firing at him. I guess this is the best time to try that move I've been practicing. On saying that, Benimaru raised his left hand in the direction of the airships and began to squeeze his fingers. In the middle of the airships, the space began to warp and distort itself. The space was warping at a fast pace and the distortion caused all the airships to squeeze in itself until all the airships were crushed under the distorted space which was caused by Benimaru. It was like the space was crushing itself which caused all the airships in that space to get crushed alongside it. Benimaru brought down his hand after confirming that all the airships were crushed. I guess I still need to practice this move if I want it to be battle ready in the coming war. General Calgurio had a GOBS make it expression after witnessing the power of Benimaru. And this is only the right-hand man of Demon Lord Rimuru and not the Demon Lord himself. We are finished. The Empire is finished. General Calgurio, we must flee before he comes for us next, the lieutenant shouted. And where are we going to run to? He told us as much that we either retreat or die. He is making sure that none of us are left alive. General, we've dictated a massive concentration of magicule that is heading our way, one of the network observers shouted in panic. Calgurio looked up at the roof of his ship. I just hope that in the next fight, I won't be as foolish as to challenge a being beyond human comprehension. And the HQ tank along with the remaining Empire's soldiers burnt to ash thanks to Benimaru's hell flare which he fired at the remaining Empire's soldiers. Benimaru used magic sense to check if there are still remaining, but confirmed that all the Empire's soldiers have been wiped out. He began to return to Tempest from the way he came from. Inside the control room of the Dwargo Kingdom, King Gazel along with his ministers could not believe what they just watched. Rimuru was kind enough to install the same type of surveillance magic that he uses in Tempest. The one he installed for Gazel could only project all that is happening in the territory of Dwargo while the one in Tempest can be used on the entire west, north and south continent. With this surveillance, Gazel and his ministers were able to see all that happened in the battle with the Eastern Empire's army and Benimaru who was Rimuru's right-hand man. The Eastern Empire's military powers were quite fearsome indeed and had they succeed in attacking Dwargo, then the kingdom would have been doomed. Gazel was able to sense several guys who all had powers that rivaled a demon lord and some of them can also take on the 10 great sages of Libellus excluding Saint Hinata. That guy who called himself Minutes had enough power to make him cautious. But all these powerful soldiers and those powerful tanks with airships were destroyed in a one-sided fight against a single opponent. It was so shocking that Gazel had to clean his eyes to make sure that what he is seeing is not an illusion. I can't believe it even when I saw it with my own eyes. That Majin power is really out of this world. Jane, one of Gazel's ministers said with a shocked look. I knew that he was Demon Lord Rimuru's right-hand man, but to think that he is this strong, the leader of the Pegasus Knights said with shock. I checked about him my king and it was confirmed that all of Rimuru's subordinates have indeed gotten an increase in power. The female elf spy of Dwargo said to Gazel. The result is obvious. Rimuru and his subordinates are preparing for a war with an incredible opponents. He informed me that he would not be participating in the fight because of the rules set before the war, but his men are ready to fight. We have been training our soldiers in preparation for the war that will come, but if our enemy are as strong as that Majin, then we have no hope left unless we rely on Rimuru's subordinates, Gazel told them. My king, the Pegasus Knight are all as strong as B rank with some of them reaching A-. There can face any opponents that will come during this war and we still have you my king, the leader of the Pegasus Knights said to Gazel. Gazel laughed. I may be strong, but even I am no match for that Benimaru. I might be able to deflect some of his flames, but against that space magic he used, I stand no chance at all. No my king, surely you can still create a counter for it. You are as strong as the Saint Hinata, I'm sure that you can beat that Majin. The ministers were all saying this, but Gazel knew the truth. He might be as strong as a saint but he is no match against Benimaru. He alone can never fight that many military might of the Empire, but Benimaru single-handedly destroyed all of them in such a short time. The difference between his powers and Benimaru's is like heaven and earth. There is no comparison at all. What truly frightens me is that Rimuru has so many subordinates who are as strong as that Benimaru fellow. Just thinking about it makes me shiver, Gazel said to them. The ministers all kept quiet after hearing that. They all prayed in their heart that Rimuru should never become hostile to the world, because if he does, no one can stop both him and his subordinates.